1 FM. How do you do, kind sir?
I'm good. I hope you're good and your viewers and listeners are good too.
Definitely. They have no choice but to be good. We are living in interesting times. I think those with high blood pressure, it has definitely shot up because on the one end, we have the Zondo Commission. On the other, we've got COVID to contend with. On the other, we've got a populace that is raging and they need the country to be open again. They want to travel. They want to sip on their favorite boozes and other beverages. And also, we've got things and ways that we're also trying to do as individuals to try and survive. I invited you onto our show because I feel that as one of the most prolific political thinkers as well as opinionated firebrands in SA, it was only necessary to invite you to share with our listeners what is it that we call a democracy that's in limbo. Before we go even further, do you mind kindly introducing yourselves to those who may not be aware of who Andile Mngxitama is so we can proceed with our conversation?
Sure. My name is Andile Mngxitama and I'm the president of a revolutionary Black consciousness organization called Black First, Land First. And I'm something of a scholar of Black consciousness. In fact, you know, I have a number of copies I don't give these books, I don't sell these books anymore. But this one of the most important compilation that we have done, Bigo Lives. If you go to Amazon or any of those areas to try to get it, they'll sell it for about 2,500 rand or more.
Wow.
I'm keeping these copies. I'm not selling them anymore. But yes, I'm one of the editors of that. Yeah.
So you're basically depriving us of knowledge and obviously the wisdom of Biko.
No. I have told people, man, you can get this book, you can order it. But there's also very important, since I'm with you here, just a second. I mean, I'm also an author and I sell very important, I can't see his, but I mean, I was just checking over there. So the one thing that I do is I sell publications. I write and I distribute ideas. One of the most popular booklets I've done is called Blacks Can't Be Racist. And I was looking for a copy. I can't see it here in my shelf. Blacks Can't Be Racist. The most popular one, we reissued it for its 10th anniversary, because 10 years anniversary. I first published it around 2009. Yeah.
So we live in a continent where for the longest of time, I think from the late 1950s, we were told that democracy was the in thing and almost every other country hopped onto the democracy bandwagon. South Africa even coined its own, the National Democratic Revolution, but it seems to be in dire straits. Some say it's critical, but alive. What is your take on what they call the National Democratic Revolution?
Well, the National Democratic Revolution is a very specific concept developed by the ANC Alliance, in particular the Communist Party. And I think actually it's a very strange thing, because the NDR was finally put together to avoid the black question. In the early 20s, the Communist Party in particular of South Africa, which basically has been a white project, led by white people. It was told by the Russians in the international meeting in Moscow that, I'm talking about the 1920s now, it was told you must adopt what was called the Black Republic thesis. What that meant is that the Russians, the communists, global communists were saying, South Africa is a country of black people, and you communists, you have to adopt the Black Republic thesis. In other words, the country has to return first to black people before we talk about anything. To try to circumvent this very clear instruction on the black question by the Communist International, first under Lenin, under Stalin, the whites who controlled the Communist Party complicated the story and called it the National Democratic Revolution instead of the black thesis. But essentially they claim that it was still about, let's have democracy, after democracy will then move to socialism and blah, blah, blah. But we believe this is all nonsense. The idea of democracy in Africa is a very strange one, despite the fact that we are the authors and creators of the democratic system in its true sense of the word. It has been corrupted by the West, brought back as a corrupt system, which is what we have in South Africa. Basically, democracy is a veil to hide white power in South Africa. So it makes Black people to vote under the belief that they're voting for their interests, when in fact they are legitimizing white power. That is why today they look at what's happening, man. I don't know, talk about Zondo Commission, the judiciary, the corruption, all of this. If you look at it, it has to do with this capturing of the state by white power. The 5 years of the first 10 years, of course, of Mbeki, He has a two-thirds majority. He has no sunset clauses. The ANC have the state. They control the army. They are not death squads. Why didn't Mbeki maintain the project of the National Democratic Revolution? That's where I'm arguing. That's where the sellout happened. Zuma takes over for the first 5 years. He's not really moving, right? He's maintaining the same Mbeki project by and large. But the last 3 years of his term, the last term, Zuma moves radically to the left. Radically to the left. He's doing the BRICS thing. He's getting us out of the ICC. He's starting to talk about land expropriation without compensation. He's doing all this stuff, man, which we want, right? He frightened white capital. You know, the stuff they were doing at ESCOM with Machele Koko and Brian Molefe and Babungubani.
Yes,
guys, Machele Koko was saying at the time, for instance, if you want to do business with ESCOM, you have to be 51% black owned. I mean, this is radical stuff. On the other hand, we see that through that Gupta assisted project, they managed to undermine one of the biggest, I think the third biggest global energy supplier, Glencore, and it becomes a property of Tageta. Again, you know, we don't have time. I want to write a whole book about this stuff because it fascinates me. Just how it really does. It's amazing. I mean, if you are a business person, if you're a black business person, you're aggressive, you understand it's war. You gotta have to go teach yourself, learn from what the Guptas were doing. I mean, this stuff is really amazing. Okay. Anyway, the point I'm trying to drive is that Zuma frightened capital. The deal that Mandela cut with an open-ended possibilities, but Mbeki does not push. He consolidates white power, Mbeki. Zuma for the first 5 years, more or less do the same thing, but he starts moving away. He frightened them. That's why you end up with the two factions in the ANC of radical economic transformation and the New Dawn, or the Stellenbosch was frightened.
Yes.
Hey, guys, we forget now. I mean, Zuma doing stuff like, you know, Bashir. Remember Bashir, the guy from Sudan?
Yes.
When he came here and the IEC said, arrest the guy. Remember and Zuma, I mean, you know, this is beautiful stuff. If you are a rebel like I am, you know, me, I'm a rebel, man. I love it when we beat the system in its own game. I mean, that's why I follow, for instance, Prophet Bushiri, right? All these crazy people, Prophet Bushiri.
Too fast, too furious.
How did he get out of the country? I mean, me, I love it when black people beat the system, right? Because I know we're at war against a very sophisticated and a brutal enemy. Anyway, so to your question, the so-called 9 wasted years, it's just a creation, just like state capture by people who have actually captured the state. I have said Nelson Mandela did not make sure that the whites' power stop the control over the state. Mbeki even further consolidate their power. They've always captured the state. Zuma, in the last 3 years, literally is moving away from these guys from the state capture, from capturing the state. And you know how clever they are? They turn around and they say, those people who are challenging us capturing the state are the ones who are capturing the state. And today, you know, state capture meaning is Zuma and the Guptas and all the people that have been called before. It's a clever trick. Again, I give credit to the enemy. The enemy has done amazing work in convincing black people that, for instance, the enemy is not the enemy. The enemy is one standing for the truth. It's against corruption. And people like Zuma, like the Guptas, like ourselves, like Dudumieni, like Yomashela Koko, all of those, like Brian Molefe, everyone, like, I mean, my brother, Saudi, all of these people who actually took a stand for black interests are all of them the corrupt ones that must pay. I mean, you know, this morning, let me just conclude. This morning, just to give you this morning I was just telling my followers on Facebook that for me, it's heartbreaking to think about the fact that Zuma has been hounded, has been dragged to court and everything, but FW de Klerk, the mass murderer, apartheid president, has been allowed to have
room free.
in peace, and he's still getting all this money that we give him to live as well as he does. But Zuma is the guy who spent 10 years in Robben Island fighting for our freedom, is the guy that we want to lock up once again.
Interestingly, when you make mention of how the Zondo Commission may have been a platform that is created to vilify as well as also violate, as well as maybe isolate people who are seen to be favoring the past president. When I say past, I mean Jacob Zuma in particular. You've also been recently implicated. Do you think it's a witch hunt that is created to muddy the waters, as it were?
Yeah, no. The Zondo Commission is a very clever thing. I mean, and again, guys, we're fighting a system which is over 100 years. If you just take the Broederbond since 1918, the Broederbond, right? These guys were thinking in secret about how to oppress Black people systematically. But of course, we are fighting a system which is about 400 years old. I think since 1652, the arrival of white people here, it has always been how best to oppress us, right? So then the Broederbond really formalized it and systematized this, right? So this That's what our people know. And this feeds into our political enemies' narrative about the fact that we are corrupt, we are also protecting corruption, which is completely nonsense. But we will come back to this. We will explain why Zondo Commission did this to us. It's a very simple thing, but it needs thorough investment. The point is, the Zondo Commission is a political tool for our enemies. And we are at war. We make no bones about this. We are at war. The enemy is white monopoly capital. White monopoly capital is the guys who are in Stellenbosch, the guys who control South African economy, who have our land, who control that parliament right now, right? So and these are our enemies, but they captured the state and the judiciary and they're controlling it to attack us. This is what's happening.
There's a gentleman on Facebook by the name of Paul Ngubeni. He says, real fireworks will be when Andile Mngxitama appears before the Zondo Commission. They messed with the wrong man, and that will end in tears for them. This is what he says on Facebook. And definitely, I think most people are awaiting your availability and presence at the commission with bated breath, because there's been an assumption, or rather most people are saying, there's a sense or degree of biasness that is seen through the media, and how obviously the Miss K as well as the Mr. X evidences or affidavits are swung around to suit a particular narrative. But to move on to my next question, recently we had also the EFF proposing that the local government elections be pushed to 2024. Some have even said 2024 is the year under which all these machinations are going to be consolidated, and South Africa is going to have sort of like a unified party that is going to be a pro-democracy, in inverted commas, formation that is for all citizens in South Africa. Do you agree with this?
There is a plan we believe was hatched around 2015 when the EFF went to London. You know, when they went to London, they actually asked to meet, and I have the book here, Robin Renwick. They asked, Robin Renwick in his book, he says, these guys asked to meet me. And we know that they also met Robin Renwick in that thing called the Chatham House. In Chatham House, under Chatham House rules, those rules say that what is said inside the Chatham House meeting cannot be. Yeah. So we know the pictures came out. The thing they concocted, there were two. One was the state capture project, that they're going to have to run with the state capture project so that they can get rid of Zuma, arrest Zuma, and try to neutralize the Zuma forces. That was the one thing they did. That's why in London, for the first time, two things happened. One is that the EFF attacked Robert Mugabe, whom they had just, in fact, February of the same year had praised.
Visited, yes.
Then they attacked the legacy of Nelson Mandela. We don't have time, but important for London to start attacking the legacy of Nelson Mandela, because Nelson Mandela's stature is so big, and as long as it is not attacked, it gives the ANC too much power, and they need to chip the power of the ANC so that they can come to what we call Project 2019. Project 2019 was tested in 2016 when the EFF gave political power in the critical metros to the DA. So that is when they tested this thing can work, right? Project 19, basically, like you say, it's a situation where you reduce the ANC from 50 plus to 50 and lower, to lower than 50. You bring in the EFF and the DA to co-rule the ANC. Then you have a government of Stellenbosch and London completely, right? Because if the ANC is so strong, they don't trust the fact that it could still fall under the control of, say, the Zuma faction, and then it will be able to continue. So you must weaken it. And this talk of consolidation of the elections and postponement of local government elections is a function of Project 2019, right? They want to consolidate it there, but they're also not sure how they will do in these local government elections, because they're not sure anymore if they will get the same numbers. Right now, we have just beaten them, by the way. BLF, the media will never report this. BLF, together with a very small party called the Patriotic Alliance, we helped the Patriotic Alliance. They contested a by-election in the city of Johannesburg in Ward 68. And we, BLF, supported these comrades of PA. And we won that ward. We beat the ANC, we beat the DA, we beat EFF in a local government by-election. So they know, so the EFF, I think it is not so sure how it will do in the coming elections later this year. And therefore it's better to postpone for 4 years they will be in government without a democratic mandate. And I think this makes sense. We are looking very carefully at that. But that is part of Project 19. They want that government of a coalition government proper, which will be completely controlled by Stellenbosch and London.
Great stuff. And lastly, I'm going to wrap this up for purposes of time, obviously. You've obviously had a colorful career culminating in the PLF, excuse me, in a country where they're saying you cannot have an exclusively Black political parties, but you've got the Freedom Front Plus, which is supported to a degree by AfriForum. And as a result, there's been a creation of Orania as well as Eureka, a state within a state. Why does the IEC have issue with you having a purely Black party, whereas other machinations are allowed to exist in the country?
The biggest fear of white power is Black people realizing that we have a majority and Black people who can organize a political movement, a political party, which will use the Black majority uncompromisingly to push the Black agenda. This is the biggest fear. And so that is why we say in South Africa, there are only two real political parties. On the one hand, you have Freedom Front Plus, which supports the white agenda. Of course, you have the DA and others under it and social, so-called civil society organizations such as AfriForum and so on. But the real political party in South Africa is that two. One is Freedom Front Plus representing the white agenda. On the other is Black First, Land First representing the Black agenda. So Black people, though, have not realized this yet, and they're still supporting organizations which are not clear on the Black agenda. But white people know about BLF, and they know what the Black agenda means. And that is why they went to the IEC and actually got us banned from participating in South African politics. Why would, if BLF was so irrelevant, why would Freedom Front Plus spend so much money to make sure that we are banned? Because they understand what Black people don't understand, that BLF represents the Black agenda, and this is the only thing that can liberate Black people for real. So authentic two forces in South Africa is the Freedom Front Plus and Black First, Land First. Now, the good news is that we're going to participate in the coming elections. I will be at the IEC next Friday. We will also tell you the details of that process. So we are working hard tonight. We're having a big meeting of BLF on Zoom. We are preparing for 2021. Julius Malema is a little bit scared. We are not. We want these elections to happen to represent our people. But before I go, can I just say one last thing?
Sure. I'm also.
My brother, I'm wearing, I don't know if.
Day of the People's Manifesto.
Again?
Day of the People's Manifesto.
Yes, thank you. Yes. My brother, this Day of the People's Manifesto, really, my People's Manifesto is an idea that was operationalized into what we call the Sankara Oath. And the Sankara Oath is this idea coming from Thomas Sankara that we are using to say the president, the ministers, members of parliament, the premiers, the DGs, the councillors, all elected and senior members of parliament must be forced by law to use public services. They cannot give us services they themselves have no confidence in. They cannot be allowed to take our money, give us bad public service, and go to the private hospitals. My brother, the point I want to raise very sharply is that we have lost our brother Ushonisane Litole at the Tembisa Hospital.
Yes.
Young man, healthy. His brother was denied food for 100 hours, more than 100 hours, was not being taken care of, and he passed on. The solution is not just to punish the leadership of the Tembisa Hospital, because Tembisa Hospital is like all other public hospitals. The solution is to bring the Sankara Oath to honor and to make sure that the death of our brother Shonisani Litole is not in vain.
Lastly, let me just steal this one. It just came into my mind. What do you make of the appointment of Dr. Harvard into the legislature of... I'm bringing it because we touched on the PLF's mandate and we're looking at South Africa, which is a claimed democracy. Obviously, every person who lives in